Hi, this is Dave Bundy, editor of the Journal Star, and this is our editorial board interview in the Lincoln mayoral race. The candidate we're talking to today is Mayor Leirion Gaylor Baird. So, Mayor, thank you for being with us. Before we turn this over to you to do almost all the talking, we'll have each of our board members introduce himself or herself. Natalia, you want to start?
Sure. Natalia Witta, president of the Journal Star.
Robin?
Robin Eschelman. I'm a community volunteer.
You're so much more than a volunteer. You've really, I think you might have even tried to quit and we forced you to stay. So I'm not sure at what point you stopped being a volunteer. Mike?
And the newest member of the editorial team.
All right. I didn't hear you very well, but I know what you said. You're the newest member and you're a community member. And that's Kent's cue.
Hello, Kent Walgamot. I write about arts and entertainment, and I am the longest serving member of the editorial board. So there's your contrast.
All right. Well, as I said, Mayor, we are grateful to have you with us. The first question is a way for you to introduce yourself. You know more about the office of mayor than most people, so you're qualified to answer this question. Why do you want to be mayor? And then what experiences and attributes do you think qualify you for that role?
Well, thank you so much for having me today. And thanks for your volunteer service, some of you board members. Congratulations, Mike, on your appointment. I have been invested in working in city government at the local level for 15 years now, first as a planning commissioner volunteer myself, then as a city council member for 6 years, and as Lincoln's mayor for the past 4. And really making Lincoln an even better place to call home is what inspires my service. Lincoln is my home. This is where my husband Scott and I are raising our 3 kids, and making Lincoln an even better place for everyone to pursue their lives and their livelihoods. That's what drives and inspires my service and makes me want to continue this work for another 4 years. Lincoln is a community that earns top rankings for public safety and economic recovery and opportunity and high quality of life. And it's truly a pleasure to be a part and partner with people all across this city to keep it so.
All right. These are still warm-up questions here. So describe your management style and how it relates to being mayor of Lincoln.
When I first came into the office, I, of course, looked to hire really talented individuals with a lot of experience and expertise and relationships that can help move things forward in our community. I have a wonderful cabinet of subject matter experts who lead the various city departments in our community. And my mayor's office team is also incredibly talented and diverse. And we established a vision of leading Lincoln towards a more successful, secure, and shared future. We established our core values, and we use those core values to help with decision-making and to guide our thinking, and especially as we work through tough problems. Those are all on my website at the city, lincoln.ne.gov. You can look on the mayor's webpage. They include Lumos Maxima, which is a reference to Harry Potter. It's about being transparent and shining a light, standing proudly in the light of accountability for all we do. There are core values about rigor and excellence and analytics and using data to make decisions that are consistent with our values. And of course, also making sure that we have inclusive leadership, and we worked hard to develop equity frameworks so that we are analyzing problems and looking to innovate to create solutions that take into account diverse perspectives across our community. We know that we make better decisions and better policies and get better outcomes when we bring lots of people to the table, virtually or in person, and get to those solutions. So it's a collaborative and adaptive style of management. We work together and we adapt as new problems are presented to us and innovate to solve and develop the solutions.
All right. Well, this is somewhat related to that, but do you have an example or two of how you've worked with people with different political views?
Gosh, sure.
They're all over the place.
That's what we do at the city. I mean, it's a nonpartisan role, and we do our best to engage and hear from people from every corner of our community. When we started thinking about convening my mayor's Water Source Advisory Council, because developing water infrastructure for the next generation of Lincolnites and our children and grandchildren, we knew we needed to bring a lot of diverse folks to the table with different expertise, different ways of intersecting with the issue of water. So we had folks who were in the farming and ag world. We had folks who were technical engineers. We had people who live in lower income areas of our community. We had young professionals. We brought together city department leaders, and we convened that group and asked them to evaluate our options, working with subject matter experts who are facilitating. And that, I think, is a really good example of tackling one of the most challenging issues Lincoln faces long-term, securing a second source of water to grow our community and support our resiliency and economic vitality into the future. And ask them to, together, people who had never necessarily been met before, come up with the criteria that they think matters most, evaluate our options, and then work through recommendations utilizing data and a framework. And so that is an example of the kind of important nonpartisan approach to delivering on vital infrastructure that helps grow this community and grow economic opportunity in Lincoln.
All right. Well, if I was worried about keeping us on pace, I don't have to be. So we're ahead of schedule. Okay, I guess the warm-up questions are over. This is one that I'm sure you're prepared to address. Some sort of a multi-parter that I'll be glad to remind if I need to. But opening question: is Lincoln safe or not? How do you support that view, and what else does Lincoln need to do in the arena of public safety?
Sure. Lincoln is a very safe community by almost any metric, and I intend to keep it that way when I'm reelected as mayor. We invest the vast majority of our tax-funded budget in our public safety teams and making sure that we have the personnel, the fleet, the equipment, and the training necessary for them to be safe on the job and to keep all of our families in Lincoln safe. This is our community's shared priority and my administration's top priority. And so to that end, we have hired 31 folks to our police force. We have hired 28 individuals to LFR, Lincoln Fire and Rescue Team. And we have worked to make those competitive and be a competitive employer. So we're attracting the best and the brightest to these roles. Then we can recruit and retain top talent. And we have also worked to make sure that we are continuing to have good response times for emergencies, even as the city grows its geographical boundaries. And so, we've been cutting the ribbon on new stations for police and for our fire teams. We have been purchasing new fleet because some of our fleet, when I came into office, were old enough to vote and old enough to drink. So we've been making sure that we are starting to keep up with the needs that our public safety teams have in order to protect this community. And we have great results. Lincoln is approaching a 30-year low in the violent crime rate, despite that we've added 100,000 people in population during that time. Our non-traumatic cardiac arrest rates, survival rates are double the national average in terms of success. And we have lots of partners to thank for assisting in that effort, including our residents who use who do standby CPR efforts, public bystanders CPR. And so, we are continuing to invest to make sure that we keep this community safe as we grow. At the same time, we look to address the root causes of crime. So we're investing in mental health services in partnership with the county through our joint budget committee. We support nonprofits like Centerpoint and Cedars and the expansion of Centerpoint on South Street, because we know that we want to be proactive as we pursue public safety. And for our Lincoln Police Department, we've invested in more expertise in the mental health services because an increasing number of our calls for service are related to mental health needs. So these are just some of the examples of how we are investing in public safety to ensure that Lincoln continues to remain a very safe community.
All right. Housing affordability is something that gets a lot of editorial board attention and a lot of other people's attention. A lot of times the affordable housing is taking the form of apartments. So how do we address affordable housing and in particular owner occupied housing? What does the city need to be doing there?
Well, the city needs to keep leaving no stone unturned. We are using all the tools we have and we're developing new ones because we think housing is absolutely a priority and it's foundational to our families' financial security and economic opportunity. So to that end, we continue to assist with home ownership opportunities. For the past 20 years, the city has devoted funds to NeighborWorks and Habitat and assisted with grants that help folks who are first-time homebuyers move into home ownership. And then we, of course, are looking at missing middle housing. We've got projects right now that are going to help with home ownership and workforce housing, like Foxtail Meadows, that is going to receive incentive and assistance with infrastructure for that project, and is one of the ways that we're addressing creating new housing at every price point. We need to do that to take pressure off the housing market overall. We also have a coordinated affordable housing action plan to help target our limited resources in a way that tries to prevent people from being cost burdened. And what I mean by that is that we are trying to make sure that our residents aren't paying more than 30% of their income on rent, utilities, or mortgage utilities. And so this has been another collective effort partnering with community stakeholders to develop new resources to finance the construction and creation and rehab of affordable housing units. We set an ambitious goal to create 5,000 more units of affordable housing by the year 2030. And we're already on track. In fact, we're ahead of schedule to meet that goal, having created or incentivized over 1,200 units since I've been mayor. And part of the way that we're doing that is building out infrastructure in partnership with the private and philanthropic sector. We have a community development financial institution called CDR, Community Development Resources. We're working to get them resources from our city budget with an ask at our legislature to create ways to monetize our affordable housing plan. And then we will continue to facilitate projects through the city development processes. It's a huge part of what we do, land use development. And we are seeing record-shattering residential development and construction activity in the city. And that's in terms of the overall dollar value, but also in terms of the sheer number of permits for residential construction.
All right. Mayor, what policies and amenities does our city need to attract more people who want to put down roots here and fill jobs?
It kind of comes back to those basics we've been talking about. We need to continue to be a really safe community. We need to be a community full of economic opportunity and jobs. And we need to be a fun, attractive place that's really vibrant, place that families want to stay in or move to, or where our top talent wants to stay and start their jobs in their lives. So we'll continue, as I've mentioned, to invest in public safety. Well, I'm committed to continuing to develop the level of investment in our streets that we have through our Lincoln on the Move initiative. During my first term, we went above and beyond that Lincoln on the Move revenue that is so helpful in creating the historic investment in our streets that we've done over the past 4 years, over $200 million into streets. Part of that came from a highway allocation fund package that we took to council to develop an additional $25 million for our streets, because streets are not only about public safety for the traveling public, they're not only about making sure that we can get to where we need to go, they're also about supporting economic growth and vitality. And then, if we want to continue to grow, we have to make sure everyone knows that they belong and can find a place here in Lincoln. And that's jobs and a sense of a warm, welcoming embrace, that they experience true belonging. So we are continuing to make sure that people know that Lincoln is open to business for everyone, that we want everyone to be able to find a job free of discrimination. We want to make sure that anyone coming out of our top universities and who's graduating and looking to start their lives knows that they belong in Lincoln. Our Welcoming and Belonging Strategic Plan is one part of that effort. It is working to make sure that people of diverse cultures and backgrounds can access jobs and opportunities here in Lincoln.
All right, I have one final question, but I have to save it. And so this is when Kent does that move I call the L. Kent lunge. He comes forward to ask a question. So, and then if anybody else on the board has questions too, Kent?
Well, this isn't going to come as a great shock here to you. So we've talked about this multiple times. I'm interested in a little more of detail on what you think should be done immediately about the second water source. And in my view, that also ties into your climate action plan or whatever that was called, and those challenges, because I think those will only increase in the future, and it needs to be addressed at a much more local level as much as it does some national plans.
Right. So I want to reassure the public that we have a safe, clean, adequate drinking water supply for the next couple of decades. But we know based on our population growth projections that we do need to establish that second source, which is why I was so happy to get that recommendation from my advisory council. And we've identified the Missouri River as that source for Lincoln's water going into the next century. So right now, we've been working with our senators, our delegation at the state capitol to secure more funding to build out the infrastructure, to buy the right of way, to do the pipe loop testing and the things that our engineers tell us we need to do to make sure that we can get the water here. And we'll be having conversations with neighboring communities as well, because this is something that has the opportunity, as we build out this infrastructure, to benefit not only all of us who call Lincoln home, but some of our neighboring communities who also are thinking about their growth and vitality into the future. So this is an important basic infrastructure project, but it is also about our resiliency in the face of the extreme weather that we are seeing more of. Droughts, flooding, we know that, and fire, we know that these are things that we are more at risk for going into the future. And when we saw that, what happened with the bomb cyclone on the Platte back in 2019, when our well fields were damaged, when water was not flowing for 4 hours during that time, we knew that we were getting a preview of some of the risks that we need to be thinking about and attempting to mitigate in the face of uncertainty and accelerated climate change. So the second water source is both a necessary fundamental infrastructure project to increase supply to support a growing population, but it's also about creating resiliency and redundancy so that we are more prepared to weather the shocks ahead that could come. And water is going to be a huge issue for communities all across the country. You're seeing communities that are having conflicts about this. We want to work together with surrounding communities. We want to be thinking proactively so that we can avoid the conflict and provide the security for our community of this most valuable, precious resource.
All right, Mike, Robin, Natalia, anybody have any questions?
Good, thank you.
All right. Well, the last question, Mayor, is, as I said, somewhat open-ended. What have we not asked you that you wish we would have? No, it's kind of a wild card.
I think maybe what I'm looking forward to in the next 4 years if I'm reelected.
All right,
Maybe
consider it
question.
asked.
Yeah. Well, we have so many amazing leaders all across this community that we partner with to get things done. We are very much a city that accomplishes great things through public-private partnerships. And during the extraordinary past 4 years, we had 2 jobs at City Hall. We had the job of managing pandemic response, but also keeping things open and moving forward to the best of our abilities. The record construction work, helping partnering with our schools to keep them open in the fall of 2020. There was a lot going on, and we still, found a developer for the Pershing site. We still worked on our plans to resurrect the ball fields project. Local government is providing half of the funding for a new Lincoln Youth Complex that will create new ball fields and help drive tourism to our community. We worked to convene people to launch the Music District project, which will also build on our reputation for having a live local music scene and help build out the infrastructure downtown. We've secured state funds for that. So going forward, we have another exciting opportunity. Getting to focus on some of these transformational projects in partnership with people who care about the quality of life in our community is really exciting going forward. Our South Haymarket Park, we're making progress on that design and we'll be coming forward publicly with more news and details about that shortly. But that park is helping to catalyze redevelopment in the West Haymarket and the South Haymarket. So we have so much great work still to do. We have so many people who are enthusiastic about changing the face of downtown, supporting more residential growth and development. If we're successful at the legislature in our ask for funds for a convention center, work to try to find the financing to get that project across the finish line. These are important big times for Lincoln, and it's really going to be great to be continuing to work to build a more inclusive, welcoming, vibrant, and continued safe community going forward into the future.
All right, well, I believe we are wrapped up. Mayor, thank you very much for the time you spent with us today. And with that, I believe we're concluded and we wish you the best on May 2nd.
Thank you so much for your time and the volunteer efforts that some of you give and for what you do for our community. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
bye-bye.
Mayor.